Makes me feel safe and comfortable, and in every situation, I feel at home knowing that someone is always in my corner. But
like, where's the tissue? Let me,
So if he's on a date right now with another woman without his wedding ring on, that wouldn't be okay. And immediately I was like, no, he's like mistaking him. I guess this person works at this restaurant. And I was like, are you sure it's him? He describes him to a T, including him.
Hey guys, hi YouTube. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. So today I was scrolling and came across this video. What caught my eye was the vows. The vows were so beautiful. I was like, oh my God, like, where's the tissue? Let me, So I was looking at it, and then, boom, you see the story time, and this lady's talking about how everything went downhill, and she was like, who the F did I marry? And I was like, I gotta watch this. So the reason I talk about marriage sometimes on my channel or do reaction videos on it is that I want people to get this thing that marriage is beautiful, right? But also the reality of it is that it's not a honeymoon phase for the rest of your lives. Like, two people get together, it's not always going to be a honeymoon. There's some days that things are not easy. There's days that you guys wake up, both of you are not in the best moods, and you got to figure it out. There's times that your kids, come to you and ask you questions that are so difficult to answer, and both of you look at each other like, are you going to answer today? There's times that when you got to decide who the heck is going to stay home because the kid is feeling sick at school and blah, 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 blah. That's real life. That's marriage. That's why I loved when Michelle Obama got on here and it was talking about the reality of it. That's what it is. This is long term. And later on when the kids grow up, now you guys get to really enjoy each other and things like that. But it is not always, it's not perfect. So when you see vows and people are in the honeymoon phase and the wedding and the cake and everybody's like, oh my gosh. And then you get into it. You start living with this person and you're like, oh, MG. Oh, whoa, So that's one of the things that I hope to do is just to be real, that it's not always like 100%, but it's wonderful. And it's nice to have somebody that loves you, that you love them back. Great, So I saw the video and this lady was pretty much saying that, who the F did she marry? So the beginning of it is such a beautiful story. You see the vows and everything, like the guy's crying. Something about guys crying is always never a good sign. Like, I've noticed that every time a guy cried in a wedding video, it ended up being a hot mess. And the guys that like do stuff and then they come beg you and get on their knees and they're like, please take me back and all that, it's always downhill. But anyway, so she was like, who the F did I marry? So she got together with this guy. Everything was perfect. The wedding was beautiful and everything is like that. Before she knew it, she started noticing some small like red flags, but she kind of ignored it. So the flags got bigger, okay, because the guy started acting a little weird. Like, when she really needed him, the guy was like kind of making up excuses of why he couldn't be there for her. They were doing long distance. And another thing was, one time she works in the hospitality industry. So one time somebody called her. I think one of the coworkers was like, hey, is this your man over here? He doesn't have his ring on. He's on a date with another woman. Is this your man? And she was like, are you sure? Maybe you're talking about somebody else. And she goes, no, he has a tattoo and everything like that. Your man is over here with somebody else. And she was like, F, like she cursed out because she was like, the tattoo gave it away. So she was like, okay, that came up, right? So she pretty much, through their marriage, finds out that the husband had been having an affair the whole time. And it's not just that. She finds out that the husband actually has mental illness. He's been diagnosed with so many different things. And also, it just in general, the guy was just a hot mess. So when you compare, you look at the vows and you look at how things went downhill. The guy literally moved from Canada to Alberta or somewhere with the new woman and just left like that. Like, she was talking about how she was waiting, thinking that the guy would reach out to her after like 8 months, and the guy didn't. So everything pretty much went downhill. Like, and so she was like, talking about it. And then it just got me thinking, like, I remember when I came to the US, I would watch certain fairy tale movies and I would see the prince, taking away this girl who was like average and she becomes a princess and everything. They live happily ever after. I watched so many of those films and I still to this day love some of the love stories that I have seen because I'm a hopeless romantic in a way. I believe in them, in that way. But I know that the reality is not that. So when you see people showing off on social media, these lavish weddings, when you see people just confessing their hearts out and getting on one knee and saying all this thing, you think, wow, wonderful and beautiful. I want that. But never put aside what it really entails, what marriage really entails. That's where my focus is always is. what the work is, okay? After a couple of years in, what is the work that you have to do? I'm not saying it's hard work, but putting the effort, being committed and showing up every single day, even the days that you're just like, I just had a really bad day, like, please, the world leave me alone, and you're like, oh, I got a partner, I got to make sure like they're good, you know, like that's real life. And I think we should really talk about real life a lot. And I think that would really just, for me, that's where my focus has always been. I remember when growing up, my mom used to say that, you know, marriage has some days that are not the best. And she used to talk to me about some of the realities that she was dealing, for example, with my dad, you know. And I was like, what? But so far, like, I never really saw them arguing and things like that. I had a really great childhood. So I thought that everything was 100% perfect. I didn't know they were having issues, for example. So growing up, you know, I knew that I wanted to have a partner. And I wanted somebody that, you know, when my son, like, growing up, like my kid growing up, they would see just a positive relationship around them, because that's what I had. So for me, I try my best every single day. Like, for us, if we have issues, to like keep it somewhere else, like to show our son that we love him and, you know, are there for him, you know, and things like that. So in a way, like, for me, I love when people talk about the reality of it. Let's not just keep everything a fairy tale. Yes, there's, you know, Meghan Markle and the prince and all that stuff, like this fairy tale stories, whatever. But the reality is that there's another side to it. So that's really what I was like, let's focus on that too. Let's never forget, like, it's not just about that event. It's not about the amazing cake, you know, and the dances you're going to do at your wedding. It's about later, the stuff that happens later. Keep that in mind as well, because things can easily go from beautiful wedding vows to boom, everything is crashing. And now what, you know? And so that's what I always try to stress is fairy tales are nice sometimes. The reality of them, you know, you know, we've heard the story of Pocahontas and all those people, so we know it's not what it, anyway. What I wanted to say was, the reason I showed this clip and I talked about this particular video is, yes, nothing wrong. Being married is beautiful. It's wonderful with the right person. The event is nice. It's a plus. It's an icing and the topping of the cake and whatever. But just keep in mind that things can also go the other side. People can change. You know, just because somebody's telling you and showing you a certain thing, like giving you this vows, it doesn't mean that that's how they're going to be for the rest of the marriage. You know, you might be meeting a representative and they change up on you. But also the thing that I've noticed is that there's always some kind of signs that something is up. You have to pay attention to that. So that's why I never say never. I would never say things like, oh, my husband would never, ever do this and would never do that. I don't know. He's human, right? I'm human. So what I would just like to stress is, let's be careful about being caught up in this fairy tale of this beautiful, like, long vows and wedding dresses and tuxedos and wine and people having a good time. Let's also think of that other side where things can go downhill and you find yourself asking, like, who the F did I marry kind of situation. I think, you know, growing up, I watched all those fairy tales and they were beautiful. But then the reality hit. I was like, oh, that's not how it goes, because I'm married now. So I'm like, dang, it's really not like that all the time. Now, there's so many wonderful moments, of course, but most of the time it's like, especially when you got kids involved, it's day to day, like literally making an effort to be like, okay, today's rough. How do we do this? You know, somebody's not feeling the greatest, you know, who takes over this, you know, and blah, 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 blah. So is this teamwork? And there's times that, you know, you guys just are so exhausted, you both go to bed and, you know, it's like, hopefully tomorrow is better. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, I just love to talk about that reality and just say that it's not always those beautiful, perfect vows and it's not about the event, you know. Anyway, guys, I'm rambling. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.